Hi, this is Jeff Leiken. I'm speaking to you today from my office in San Francisco, California, and I want to just give you a little idea of how the MythoSelf process works. It was just something that happened yesterday that I thought was a really easy example so people can begin to get what we mean about somatics and how what you do in your body affects what ends up happening in your mind. So yesterday I'm meeting with a group of boys. They're 14-year-old boys at a school. And at one point, one of the boys, let's say his name was Sean, raises his hand and he wants to ask me a question. So I turn to him and I call him and I go, Sean, you want to say something? And all of a sudden he goes like this, yeah, what was I going to say? I forgot the question. And I looked at him and I go, what are you doing right now? And he goes, trying to remember the question. I said, no, literally like physically in your body, what did you just do? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, what happened to your breathing? And he thinks about it and he goes, I'm not. And I said, exactly. You stopped breathing. You held your breath. And I turned to the rest of the boys in the group and I go, guys, how many of you can relate to what just went on here right now? Like you have something in mind, the teacher asked a question, you have an answer, you have a question you want to ask, and in the moment when you get called on, all of a sudden, you choke. You can't remember it. And they can all, of course, relate to that. My guess is most people watch this can relate also. And I said, look at what Sean's doing right now, and you're going to understand there's an expression that athletes typically use when there's a situation where there's something they should easily be able to do, and rather than easily do it, they fail. And the expression is that they choke. Well, what happens when you're choking? And the kids say, well, it's like you can't breathe. And I said, it's exactly what the physical sensation is that somebody's not breathing. And what Sean's doing right now is one of the most common things people do when all of a sudden they cut themselves off from their free and clear thinking that they would ordinarily have. And I said, so Sean, let me show you what you were doing right before I called on you. You were leaning forward slightly to your left. So do this. And he replicates. He does exactly what it is that I'm doing. And I go, now drop your shoulders a little bit and breathe again. And as he's breathing, I go, now what was the question you wanted to ask me? And he goes, oh yeah, now I remember. And he starts to ask the question. And I point out to these guys how so simple it is once you know how to reset your body, how to realign yourself somatically, physically, all of a sudden you can get access to all the thoughts that are going on inside your head. The moment that you constrict yourself in the wrong way, it's as if you've forgotten everything that you should easily know how to do. And as all the kids are watching Sean, I see them around the room all starting to kind of, play around with moving their own postures around and leaning forward or leaning back. And at one point, one of the kids says to me, like, well, how do I do it? Because a lot of times when I'm playing sports, I'll have these moments where, like I should easily be able to make a basket in basketball and I'll just, I'll choke. And another kid says, yeah, like earlier today, I had a math test and they handed me the math test and I know all the answers, but I couldn't get them. And once again, I'm watching this kid as he's like tightening up in his chest. And one by one, all these kids were saying like, how do I do it? Like, teach me how to do this so that, I can get in pressure situations and be able to remember the question, remember the answer, perform. This little piece that I taught this kid, Sean, this simple thing of relaxing his shoulders in a certain way, leaning forward, and in his case, it was slightly to his left. That little piece right there is so profound and so powerful once you learn how to do this. Think of how many situations you get in life where just being able to have that control of yourself on the inside, to be able to get access to information that you know is in there, how incredibly valuable that is. Well, that little piece, that little tiny thing that I taught him is something that the kids who come to the Hero Path program will know how to do for themselves before Friday evening is over. Like that, in terms of what we teach, in terms of the MythoSelf process that we go through over the course of the weekend, is literally just the beginning. It just barely scratches the surface of what's possible as people learn how to use their bodies in such a way to get full access to all their mental faculties and full access to all their capabilities that they possess as a human being. So I thought I would just give you that little example. I hope this one's useful for you and you get a sense of what it's like as we're teaching people the MythoSelf process of the Hero Path for Teens program. Reminding you, we have our next program coming up February 25th to the 27th, 2011. www.heropath.co.uk, and we look forward to seeing you there. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us. I hope you guys find this useful.